Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to a deck tech brought to you by the chat and the MTG Noob. This is a modern deck, Gruul Aggro. It's becoming more and more popular with the band of key Jund cards, hashtag Bloodbraid Elf. This is a deck that won a PTQ in Seattle. I took it to a local PTQ here and did fairly well with it. I lost a win and in for the top 8 and fell just short, but I had a lot of fun with it. It's a strong deck. I made a little bit of change since the PTQ that I think has improved the deck substantially. So we're going to go through and talk about these cards, and you guys can let me know what you think about this deck list in particular. It's a little different than some of the other lists. Obviously it has some of the same key cards, but I've had a lot of fun with it. So let's go ahead and talk about the 1-drops. This is a card that we really like to see in our opening hand. Goblin Guide is very strong. Hasty 2/2. It does give your opponent a little bit of value if they reveal lands. That could be an issue, especially coming into game 2 because they're likely to keep maybe a short land hand in case you do have Goblin Guide. Help them out, but it gives you a little bit of value as well just because you have the knowledge of the cards that they're drawing. So Goblin Guide is very strong. Another red card 1-drop that we play is Curd Ape. It's typically going to be a 2/3 because when we talk about the mana base, we'll almost always have a forest in play. So Curd Ape is also a very strong 1-drop. Our only green 1-drop that we have is Experiment 1 for obvious reasons. The evolve happens very, very quickly, and he can get to be very large by turn 2. In fact, sometimes swinging for 5 with a Rancor and a couple of evolve triggers, it does happen. So Experiment 1 can get out of hand very quickly. This is another strong 1-drop that you'll actually typically want to lead with if you happen to have him in your hand. Now this is a change that I made post PTQ. I was originally running Grim Lavamancer in the Vexing Devil spot, but I found that if I was lucky, the Grim Lavamancer was doing 4 damage anyways, and since Vexing Devil can do that in 1 shot, it's a quality card. And you know, it draws removal away from your Tarmogoyfs or other big dudes. So Vexing Devil is actually a strong card, I feel. He also evolves your Experiment 1 to a 4/4, which can't really happen any other way. So Vexing Devil is actually a very strong card in this deck. So we go to the 2-drops. We'll start with the Burning Tree Emissaries. This card facilitates a very powerful turn 2 because you can simply go, if you go Burning Tree Emissary into Lightning Bolt Rancor is fine, or Burning Tree Emissary into Tarmogoyf. It's basically a free dude. It's kind of your own version of Affinity, where you can just kind of drop your cards for value. So he's a 4-of in this format. Also, all of the 2-drops can be played off of the green-red, so that's a key thing. We're also running 4 of Flinthoof Boar. This card kind of takes our 3-drop spot because often it's worth it to hold him until you can give him haste and play other dudes. Sorry about the focus here. He's typically going to be a 3/3. Like I said, we always have a mountain and a forest in play via Stomping Ground and Fetch Lands. So Flinthoof Boar is a very strong card. And then last but not least, the Tarmogoyf. This card is so strong, and while we can't make him huge on our own, oftentimes our opponents will do that for us. So typically when he comes into play, he'll be a 2/3 or maybe a 3/4, depending on how things have gone on our side, but he can really get huge late game. So if you're trying to make this a budget deck, there's no replacement for Tarmogoyf. It's a very strong card, but you can consider things like Lightning Mauler just for the haste factor. Can help push through damage. There's some other cards like maybe a Leatherback Bailiff. That just makes the mana a little bit tricky, and you'd have to play with it if that was a card that you wanted to run. But there are alternatives to Tarmogoyf if you wanted to keep this deck fairly budget. That's doable. There should be 4 in here. Don't know what to tell you. I was able to trade for 2 of them, and I had to pick one up. via cash money, which is hard to come by nowadays. So, and then the last but not least, this Gorklan Rampager actually mostly just turns into a how I win trick at the end of the game, but he can also really help if you're playing against sweepers. It's very strong to, after they Supreme Verdict you or Day of Judgment or whatever they're playing, to slam this guy down and help push through that last bit of damage. So Gorklan Rampager is very versatile as a creature and very strong in this deck. So let's go to the non-creature spells. Obviously, we're running a 3 of Rancor. You could maybe make the case to go down to 2 Vexing Devils to add a 4th Rancor here. The Trample is very relevant just because Lingering Souls is such a thing. Getting through those 1/1 chump blockers is strong. Other quality card is Searing Blaze. What's nice about the Searing Blaze is the fact that you have the fetch lands, so you can actually fetch on their turn and Searing Blaze on their turn as kind of a surprise against their attackers. So Searing Blaze is strong as a 4 of, and then obviously the Lightning Bolts, the best burn card ever printed. And if you're in red, you're playing Lightning Bolts. Sorry about the focus there. You know what it does: 1 mana, 3 damage to target creature or player. So for the mana base, we're only running 19 lands because guess what? The deck runs fine off of 2 lands. If we have 2 lands in our opening hand, we're happy, and we're not sad if we don't see another land the rest of the game. 3 of the quick lands, or 4 rather, of the quick lands, the Carboline Gorges and the Stomping Grounds. We're typically going to be fetching for these Stomping Grounds via our many fetch outlets. That card is strong. We're running 4 basics just to get value off of cards like Path to Exile, and so we don't shock ourselves to death in a mirror match. 3 mountains and a forest. The forest, you're usually not shy on forests, so that could possibly be another mountain if you'd like. I like to have the option to fetch a forest in case we need to do that. So what we have here is we've got, I believe, yeah, we have 5 red fetches and 2 green fetches. All of these will fetch our Stomping Grounds, the Arid Mesas, Scalding Tarns, and 2 Misty Rainforests. You could mix that up a little bit if you'd like. Basically, what's important is that we're able to get a Stomping Ground out on turn 1 to activate our buffs to both our Flint-Hoof Boars and our Curd Apes. So fetches are important. Whatever you've got, the blue fetches are more expensive because I guess blue is a thing. So if you want to go like 4 Arid Mesa and 4 of the other green fetch, that's totally up to you. What's important is that you have red and green to get your Stomping Grounds. Let's go to the board. Okay, this was a card that I desperately wish that I had at the PTQ. I was running Molten Rain instead, trying to stick with the aggro plan, but this just shuts down any type of really controlled decks. Basically only play non-basic lands. Also Tron can't really deal with Blood Moon. So Blood Moon is a strong card coming out of the board. Torpor Orbs against the Kiki Pod and any type of come into play effects. Restoration Angels are running rampant. One deck the deck that I actually lost my winning into was a Resto Angel Kiki, and Torpor Orb would have shut that down if I had seen it. Burning Tree Shaman. This is actually good just to give you more threats. If you're playing somebody who doesn't have a lot of targets for Searing Blaze, Burning Tree Shamans come in. Also shuts down activated abilities that aren't mana abilities. Hashtag eggs. Also, people that are fetching a lot, it starts to hurt to double up that fetch damage. A couple of dismembers. This card was main board. I didn't like it main just because I felt that like my Lightning Bolts dealt with most of the stuff that I cared about. But Dismembered does deal with indestructible things, so it's good coming out of the board. And Ancient Grudge, I probably actually would go 2 Ancient Grudge, 2 Deglammers. The reason why there's not just 4 Ancient Grudges in here is because Worm Coil Engine, Deglammer handles Worm Coil Engine without it being a problem. So strong artifact and enchantment hate there. The Fairy Macabre, this is just a concession to cards like Ngorio's Vengeance, and anything that's working with the graveyards. I didn't honestly see a whole lot of that at the PTQ, but you kind of have to have it because some of those graveyard decks can just get so strong. So that's been the modern deck list for you. If you guys have any questions specifically, go ahead and post them in the comments. I'll take a look. I appreciate you watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Thanks. Bye.